So, as I was saying, I know that it seems like perfect, but it's not. I mean, there are still challenges. But I know the change is already happening. I mean, I feel like here women are fighting hard to be respected and to be and to have the recognition they deserve. So, as a final reflection, these are the ideas I think we need to help to close the gender gap. And sorry. I think it's important to have programs to encourage girls to study STEM careers in technology, but also it's important to develop confidence so they can be mentally prepared to face this world where the path might not be easy. Okay. It's also important to fight against the stereotypes, and this is tied to the next prompt, with this to conscientiate parents on not to raise girls differently than boys, I think. They need access to internet, access to resources, same access to resources than boys, same classes, same education. As you all said before, mentoring programs are quite important. We need to create more visibility. And companies also have a great, they need to create environment, to create an inclusive culture. And also promote work-life balance, so you don't feel like you are in a disadvantage as a woman when you are in front of a man, so they can both have the same opportunities in companies. And thank you so much. That's it.
Thank you very much, Blanca, for that presentation. I'm assuring you that this is enough reason for more girls to be inspired, so that they can delve into this field of technology. And I love the fact that you mentioned something like women should be confident about who they are, and I think this really matters in anything we want to do.
I think so, I think so, because sometimes you are not going to be working with people with the same mindset and prepared to give you what you deserve as a woman. So it's important you to ask for what and speak up.
Yeah, that's a beautiful one. Thank you very much, Blanca.
You're welcome.
So we move to Dr. Vincent Olatsuji. We know that we've been raising issues, and gladly we are also talking about solutions to these issues. So if you look at digital gender inclusion holistically on the national level, we also need to look at how this solution will be implemented in the development of the nation, and African nation as a whole. What role will digital gender inclusion play in national and sustainable development? Meanwhile, just a brief introduction of Dr. Vincent. Dr. Vincent is the Director of E-Governance, Development and Regulatory with National Information Development Agency. This is an agency created to coordinate general IT development in Nigeria, in which Dr. Vincent has spearheaded and successfully delivered a considerable number of vital activities, such as formulating strategic goals and plans for achieving the organization's mandate. So Dr. Vincent, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. Let me start by commending AfriGrowth for putting up this kind of event, which is really important and of importance to us in this agency, because no matter what you do, gender issue will always come up, and we need to make deliberate attempt at ensuring that whatever challenges we have within the agency in Nigeria and globally, we should look at ways of getting these challenges. But I think what is really important here have been mentioned by a couple of the speakers. For instance, Mrs. Dayo Keshi, when she was making her remarks, said that it should not be about who you are, either you're male or female, but about your knowledge, about what you have to offer. And Blanca also, in her presentation, really mentioned that at her workplace, she doesn't have any problem. She doesn't have any challenge being a lady. And I think that should be our mindset, because if you look at the ICT sector, the sector or the computer that you use doesn't know whether you're male or female. It depends on what you have in your brain, what you want to offer, or what you want to do with technology. So it doesn't matter whether you are a male or a female. So the issue of gender does not really appear there, but what is the reality on ground? And that is seen in the figures that we have in this presentation, this second slide. And as mentioned by Nuria too, when she was making her presentation, globally, about 20% IT jobs are held by women. When you look at computer programmers globally, 30% of them are women. Then the core software engineers, we have 24% made of women. When it comes to information system managers, about 22% of them are women. But I think it's really important for us to define what we're talking about here, especially in the area of sustainable development and digital inclusion itself. And looking at various definitions, the most important thing about sustainable development is looking at development in a way that it meets the social, economic, and technological needs of the present, and without compromising what the future holds, which I think is really important as we're thinking about ourselves now, about what we are doing, about what is happening in the world now. How about the future? We have to be futuristic in whatever we think or whatever we are doing now to ensure that the future generation benefits from whatever foundation we are laying now. Then when you look at digital inclusion, we are looking at public policies that relates to administration's expansion, creation, and development of content in a wired environment. That is, you are talking about the internet, what we can do there, what we can offer locally, regionally, and globally. It also includes the issue of privacy, the issue of training, which is capacity building, and the kind of incentives that we have put in place to develop tools that will really enhance the digital economy, which is the aim thing across the globe now. Then there's some basic components that must be put in place for us to have sustainable development or to have digital inclusion or ICT in terms of development. The physical one are the computers that we see, that we use, the handheld devices, and the kind of connectivity that we have. Maybe it's LAN, it's WAN, it's wireless, all these things are the physical things that we can see. The digital materials itself, what do we have online? What percentage of online contents do we have for men? What percentage do you have for women? Then we have the human capital, that is the people that are really using these contents, using the computers, using the connectivity and stuff like that. And as I said before, the percentages are there for different aspects. But when it comes to digital literacy, what is the level of education? What is the level of digital literacy that we have? The level of education, for instance, those who are literate and those that are not literate. That is one level. Then the next level is digital literacy. What is the percentage of women that have digital literacy and those who don't have? Then in terms of content, which I've already mentioned, what are they? Then what are they? Those who are even literate, what do they use this literacy for? For instance, okay, you are computer literate. Do you use it mainly for social media purposes? You discover that more women use social media platforms more than men. But in terms of contribution to this sector, that was what this percentage I've already mentioned will speak to. Then in terms of social, that in terms of communication, the social structures, these are. Then why do we keep talking about women in tech? Why why is it becoming a major issue that we keep talking about? I will just take two major quotes that by Fountain J.E., which say that the participation of women in the design of information technology at all stages will both strengthen or be significant shortfall in human capital. We are talking about human capital. That is, it will definitely increase human capital in the area of ICT. That is, if you have more women, than say it will be for only men. Then even at the level of the United Nations, it has been said that women and men are actors in and beneficiaries of development. And women participation in this is not merely a question of justice and human rights. Because some people keep seeing the issue of gender as human rights. It is far beyond that. It's like doing justice to them. And also a question of economic calculation, because ignoring half of human would not make it possible for us to achieve desired sustainable development. Because if we don't encourage more women to come into this space, that means our aim, our objective of achieving sustainable development cannot be achieved. If you cut off a percentage of human race from achieving this, we will definitely not achieve desired goals. Then looking at the sustainable development goals, there are some goals that are very, very relevant to what we are discussing here today. We know that we have 17 sustainable development goals with different targets, objectives, and what you want to achieve. But specifically looking at goal 1, we're talking about poverty. If you have more women in technology, it's like you are eradicating poverty in a way, because they have more money, they improve the standard of living, and they contribute to their economies, the economy of the country they belong to, their GDP and stuff like that, and by extension, the global economy. We look at goal 2, also zero hunger. Yes, if you contribute to the economy, if you make money, hunger will not be part of what will be a challenge. There are good health and well-being. It's also related to. Then we look at goal 4, which is talking about the quality of education. It's a common knowledge that you can hardly have a quality education without effective ICT deployment now. So this is really key here. And that is why we need to really increase what the female gender 5 gender equality, which we keep talking about, and that is one of the reasons why we're having this roundtable today. That yes, what men are doing, they want to do that, but we should have a lot of deliberate attempts, a lot of things that we need to put in place for us to be able to achieve this. We also look at goal 8, decent work and technology growth. Also, in our places of work, without good investment in technology, we won't be able to achieve what we're. Even this meeting that we're having is as a result of growth in technology. And for most of the development countries, we've not had it good, not until this pandemic, which came up and has made it compulsory for everybody to work online. And that's why what the likes of Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google, and what they are really making in terms of profit has really gone up now during this time of technology. That's the role that technology can play. And looking at goal 8, industry, innovation, and infrastructure, that is a lot of innovative ideas that are coming up in the area of the ICT sector, which is really important. And we see a lot of women coming in. Then reducing inequalities, which is really important too. So the next thing on the agenda is to look at what we are doing, what NIDA is doing as an agency of government to ensure that we reduce what we have seen as gender inequality in the area of ICT and our contribution to national development, and by extension, the attainment of the Sustainable Development Goals, which is a global agenda that all countries are putting in place a necessary mechanism to achieve. As a matter of policy in this agency, most of our programs will ensure that we allocate a minimum of 40% to women, especially in the area of capacity building. But a major challenge here is when you even throw it open, what percentage will you get at the end of the day? At times, you don't get up to 10%. At times, we get up to 15, at times even less. Men to take up the position, but as a matter of policy, at least 40% is have the National Adopted Village Smart Agriculture, which is about introducing or deploying technology for agriculture, which we have started. We are currently running the pilot in 2 states in Nigeria. We have in Gombe and Jigawa, and we are going to do in 6 states this year, and we have commenced that process already. The issue of people living with disabilities too. We have a special capacity program for them, and 40% of the stocks also reserved for women. Then we have a special scholarship scheme for those who are planning to have higher degrees in core areas of ICT. Also, 40% is reserved for women. But as I said before, most of these initiatives, we don't get up to 40% in terms of women applying for them. There's some other initiatives that were developed specifically for women now. We have what we call ICT training for women, which we have done in all the 6 zones of Nigeria. The pilots that we did last year, we had 100 women per zone. That is, in all of the zones, we have 600 women that we have trained and empowered to be able to encourage them that what we are talking about in Nigeria now is a national digital economy. Then what role can women play? If you don't really put in place policies and programs that will encourage them to be part of that digital economy, we won't be able to achieve. That is part of what we have done to ensure that we include them. In addition to that, there are various initiatives, various programs that are supporting that in the area of supporting girls in ICT. And we have partnered with a lot of organizations to implement these programs at different levels for secondary school students, for university students, and for women. And that is why we are even part of what AfriGrowth is doing today, when it's about gender, about what women can do in the area of technology. In addition to that, we recently launched a NIDA Academy for research and encourage women to be part of this online learning platform, which NIDA has launched, and we are trying to encourage them. Then in absorbing students on industrial training, the National Youth Service, and even in the area of general employment, we have reserved a particular percentage for women. And that's where among our core members, among our IT that work in the agency, we have a lot of them that are women. This is also to encourage them. And we've organized a lot of training programs, awareness programs for them to take up professions in ICT, not just having the experience and using it for social media purposes, but to become core professionals that can really rise to any level in future. Now, I think the thing that is really important for all of us here to bear in mind and to do is to, one, when Blanca was making that presentation, I think part of our conclusion is that of confidence in the girl child to say, I'm a human being. I'm not seeing myself as the girl that will not be able to match up with what the boy is doing. I'm a human being, and I want to play that space to be able to put in my own quota. Then self-development. You should have a vision that's, okay, this is what I want to achieve, and you work towards it, not minding whether you're a man or a woman, but all you want to be a professional in the tech space, and you want to contribute your quota to the digital inclusion and the sustainable development. And we need to all work together to create this awareness to ensure that an average girl child realizes it and works towards it. Now, on the part of government, there is really important for government to put in place deliberate policies that will encourage women, girls to participate in this sector. And we have done a few, and that is part of what we've done with the 40% slot reservation for women, or whatever we are doing in the area of capacity building. The private sector, There are several initiatives that private sector can bring up, and they can really invest in this sector to encourage you get maybe in terms of scholarship, in terms of even employment. When you want to employ, okay, at least we are reserving this percentage from them to be to part of what they are doing. That is civil society organizations to have a lot of vote. And for instance, what AfriGrowth is doing today, I see this kind of awareness or advocacy, and we need to take the outcome of this discourse to policymakers, to government, share with them, so that if there are policy issues, policy ideas in terms of that can assist government in planning and in order to include more women in the area, in the tech space, to assist in digital inclusion and attaining national and sustainable development. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vincent. You've done justice to your part. I think we can give Dr. Vincent a round of applause there. Thank you very much, sir. Point when you said more women tech industry so that we can achieve the sustainable development goal. You said them not being there means that we might not be able to achieve this goal. And I think there's 80% of truth in that. We need the synergy of both gender to achieve these goals. And I also appreciate what NITDA is doing. You said because you've seen the challenge of lower women in tech. Now, you said 40% of most of your capacity building programs are for women. This is fantastic, and we urge you to keep doing more. We just want to remind you that the chat box is there so that if you have any questions for our speakers, we can use the chat box. If you have any comments or any contribution, please, we can use the chat box to do justice to that. We move to the next speaker. There is no way we're going to talk about national development if you don't mention the economy. Baratang Mia from South Africa, she has been in this industry for the past 17 years, if I'm correct. And you have been empowering women and girls by moving them to pursue careers in the tech industry, right?
Yes.
Baratang. Okay, good.
Can you hear me?
What do you think about gender inclusion in technology, boosting the economy? Yes, I can hear you clearly.
All right. You were still asking a question?
Yes. I said, what do you think about gender inclusion in technology, boosting economic growth in Africa?
80% of the growth industry, of the growing industry in the world is technology. And everything that you're doing nowadays, you can't do it without tech, including now when we experience COVID-19. If you went linked onto a computer, you didn't have Zoom, you were excluded from the world. And all these platforms that we were using as Africans, they were coming from abroad. If we were right, I'm trying to find which African platform was so common for Africans to use. And if I call all the names of the platforms that were used, very, very few were African. And if the industry is growing so much, 80% of it is growing, it's creating lots of skills, and at the same time, a certain portion of the people are excluded, which is women. It goes a long way. It didn't just start today. It's something that's been going on for a very long time. Women were not allowed to own lots of things, a lot of land, and that is like abroad, the whole of Africa. If you want to own, so material advancement and material wealth was reserved for men. And if you go into any house, when I talk to the girls, I always make it simple to them and say, if you go into any house, who owns the car, who owns the house? And if you go into business, most of the people who own the businesses are males. And if we are going to complicate this by saying economical empowerment of women, this is complication. It's too complicated. Look at who owns the assets.
And what do they look for when they want to give you assets? If you are a woman and you want to start a business and somebody wants to give you an investment, what do they ask for? They ask for surety. What is surety? Surety is land, surety is housing, surety is the job. And that's the areas where women are not playing a role. And how do we achieve the economical empowerment of women? Or how do we make sure that the sustainable developmental goals that Dr. Vincent has been talking about are achieved if number one goal, which is poverty, is not even achieved? Women are the worst affected by poverty. And because they are unemployed, because they have to take the burden. If a woman gets divorced, she takes the burden of the family. It's just something that Africa, especially in Africa, it's written like that men will just walk out and leave a wife with the kids or whatever, and someone has to take that burden. It is women. Now, for me, I've always argued that, these arguments and whatever we're raising, it's very relevant. And I'm very happy Dr. Vincent showed stats, because statistically it's proven that women don't own, women are not economically empowered. And if we take a fewer numbers of people who are in the economical empowerment, in leadership, we take the 5% of women that are at high executive level, and we ask them their stories, they're going to tell you that, oh, I'm not discriminated, I don't feel it, as a woman, I don't see it, which is quite right, because that's the one individual's experience. But collectively, 95% of women are experiencing a different story, are excluded. And that is mistaken messages. I call it mistaken messages. It's messages that are wrong. We're sending wrong signal messages to young girls to say, it is okay, because we've got Bianca, who's doing very well, who works for a company that's very inclusive. So you will be included, without saying to the industry, change your standard, change your culture. It is not accommodating to women. They join the culture and they leave. And why are women not pursuing higher, that 5%? Why is it sitting like that? Because you find that the people who are saying, I'm happy, I'm what, they're still at the bottom of the chain. Why don't we have many women approaching the leadership? Why don't we have many women starting their own companies? And it's these mixed messages that we are sending to women to say, because we're basing our messages on societal messages, which are confusing women. If you are too empowered, you are bossy. If you are too quiet, you are silent. If you take a table or a seat on the table, why are you doing that? We've been happy here as men, and you come here and you want to talk. So it's a tug of war for women. We never know what is wrong or what is right. And for the past 17 years that I've been in the industries, that what I've realized is most of the time when things collapse, it's because there's nothing that can hold it down. And at the moment with tech, there's nothing that can say to the industry or to anyone, you can't live without tech. We can't say to our girls anymore, you cannot be educated. We can't. It's wrong. We can't say to our girls, let me give you to this man. I was reading an article where early marriages is still being encouraged in some parts of Kenya, where girls are being traded for bracelets. And I said to myself, those things shouldn't be held tight in our society, because at this point in time, we are in a different time of our lives where technology can make women speak everywhere in the world. One incident happens in the US, the whole world was talking about Black Lives Matter. Some girls bracelets are put on their necklace in Kenya, being traded for marriages, and nobody's talking about it. And you know why? It's because 40% of women in Sub-Sahara do not have access to internet. 60% of women in Sub-Sahara are not using proper technology. If we had proper internet, proper technology, that wave would be running exactly it is in the US, because South African women would know that this is a power for us. This is a tool we can use to get forward. So for me, I say we need to economically empowerment, and we need to start them at an early age, give them mentorship that will guide them to say, these are the opportunities, and should you choose in this level. We need to be sponsors to girls, because mentoring on its own is not enough. We need to, when I say sponsorship, they go to university, they've gone through a very great program, they were taught how to code, they know how to code, they know there's lack of women in tech, and they apply for computer science. When they get into a computer science class, there's 5 girls and 25 men. And boys, because they grow with technology, they are standing there powerful, and their women start going backwards. Because even if you go into the academia, when you look at how women are progressing, when you get to PhD, there's 1 woman among 6 men doing computer science PhD. And it's those little messages that makes women go backwards and move backwards. And you know, the higher it goes, women move backwards, because the challenges that they face are not challenges that we should be talking about them today. For me, it's challenges that has been there. Patriarchy has circled them. They are part of our culture, and we try to break them down. But when you face those challenges, you're standing as an individual. It's not a collective argument. Now it's you, one woman, standing against a bunch of male, or standing against a culture that you cannot change. And what do? You keep silent, you walk away, and that is how we lose women. And that empowerment, if women are more empowered and they have mentors and they have sponsors, people around rallying around them to say, you know what, it is like this. Even John is experiencing it. You know, even Ariyank is experiencing it, because whatever we are saying as women, we're experiencing, you might be experiencing, but because you are male, you have nowhere to voice it out. And because you are one individual amongst a whole collective of people who are successful, you are being isolated. Now, how do we make sure that we start seeing humanity of all these challenges and all these wrong things that we are pushing against girls, and not forgetting that challenges that are facing girls double. So you are doubled by being female, woman, your gender in terms of taking care of family, marriages, teenage pregnancy, and being at the same time expected to lead. So we need to bring all this together in one, and start speaking one common message to say, in the industry, we need empowered society. And empowered societies make sure that the whole of Africa has the right broadband. Women have access to resources, computers, cell phones that can work. Women have access to mentors. Women have access to sponsors, people who will sponsor. If I start a program and I run an NGO, I shouldn't be looked down because it's an NGO. It's not a PTY limited. It's not making money. It's changing lives of young African women. Investment should also go that direction. And at the same time, when we are speaking all these messages of pushing women and what, make sure that access to material is also made easy. When a woman wants to buy a car, when they want to buy a house, when they want to open their own business, there's investment, there's funding available, and there is enough support to say, we can stand with you, we trust you, because women have been running businesses. Unfortunately, they run informal businesses. And now we need to take that informal sector of women across Africa and make it formal and invest in it, so that we can solve African challenges, especially that are facing women. And I want to say that we've really reached that time in our life where we cannot be saying, what can we do for women? It should be done. It should be part of the discussions that we hold every day, and make sure that it is not negative. It comes out as a positive, because what we've done, what we are doing now, we make women who are very powerful to feel as if they are victims for doing the right things, or they are victims for being powerful. We need to take that mentality away. But when we speak about women power, it should be women power, and girls should be able to emulate that women are bringing in the power and they're contributing to our economics.
Thank you very much, Baratan. I think let's give her a round of applause. We're going to be quickly, please, a notification that we have 5 minutes more, left. So please, if you are logged off, kindly log in back so that we can continue the meeting. So let's quickly move on to Ned Sosa. Ned, are you there?
Yeah, I am.
All right, good, good, good.
Okay, so
Can you quickly take the floor? Please remember, if you are logged off, please let's log in back to listening to Ned.
I will log. I'm still on.
okay. Can you guys listen to me?
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so my name is Nair, and I work for Afro Solution as partnership coordinator, and it is an organization committed with addressing the lack of basic quality education in the Southern Africa, and as it is really opportunity. So we also address the issue of gender equality. So Afro Solution exists in approximately 1 year, and I've been coordinating the creation of solid partnerships with different stakeholders from the public and private sector, especially partnerships among NGOs, governments, and communities, which are also really, really important for addressing the issues on gender equality. So I would like to bring some facts and figures. I would like to say that technology is one of the worst represented industry, with women making up less than 20 in Africa. Around 60 million of girls are not in schools, and specifically 78% of girls drop out school, and this is because girls are being educated to work around homestead, for example, or work selling goods on the streets and getting married. So those facts are so alarming. They are so alarming, and it tells us that girls are unfortunately being educated and raised to be led by men. So as a non-profit organizations and CSOs, we should address the issue of gender gap in techs. And the solutions are, in a nutshell, basically making education a priority, working closely with governments, and having the community support. And it is important to create mentorship programs in which professionals in tech they can use their skills to teach for free lessons of programming, web development, and app development.